My friends, welcome back to Riell Truth. All I'm doing is reading from TheGuardian.com. It says Hollywood has a rampant and pervasive problem of men sexually abusing boys and young men, according to actors and lawyers who are speaking up about misconduct and harassment in the wake of an allegation against actor Kevin Spacey. It's a very taboo subject, said Alex Winter, an actor and director who said he was sexually abused as a preteen child actor. I don't know of any boy in any pocket of the entertainment industry that does not encounter some form of predatory behavior. It's really not a safe environment. Spacey has been accused of making an unwanted sexual advance towards Star Trek actor Anthony Rapp, who says he was 14 years old at the time of the alleged incident in 1986. According to Rapp, Spacey, who was 26 at the time, lay on top of him and tried to, quote, seduce him. Spacey, star of Netflix show House of Cards and former artistic director of London's Old Vic Theatre, apologized after BuzzFeed published Rapp's allegations, saying he didn't remember the encounter. If he did what Rapp described, quote, it would have been deeply inappropriate, drunken behavior, unquote. Spacey also formally came out as gay in the same statement on Sunday night, a move that outraged LGBT activists and actors who said it was a cruel deflection that caused harm by linking his sexuality to an allegation of child abuse, fueling the homophobic myth that gay men are predators. To some, Spacey's controversy has been a painful reminder that young gay actors can be particularly vulnerable to mistreatment. Stop! What do you mean young gay actors can be vulnerable? Young actors in general can be vulnerable. And by the way, let's tackle this right now. Here we've got Hollywood. Hollywood celebrities, these lefties, have been sounding off ever since Donald Trump announced he wanted to run for president. They are self-righteous. They feel morally superior to us. They have no hesitation about lecturing us about what we should think and how we should live. And now we see how they think and how they live. These Hollywood elitists dare to stand in judgment of the average American, and look what a sewer Hollywood is. Not only among the sexual predators, but among the people who know what's happening and say and do nothing, and allow it to continue happening. Those are the morally superior elitists who dare to speak down to us and lecture us. Well, my friends, I've warned you on this show many times about the celebrity culture that we have. It's toxic, it's horrible, and this is just confirmation of that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Dr. Stephen Kirby is going to join us. We're going to talk a little about another of my favorite subjects, Islam, the religion of peace. It's Riell Truth. Go nowhere.
The American thing doesn't speak to us. We spoke at 1-800-0545 to make your donation. Check Road, Johnstown, Colorado, 80534. Feel about 175 Johnstown, Colorado, 80534. Choice City Electric in Fort Collins reminds listeners, out of sight should not mean out of mind. Let's remember our brave men and women in the military by sending care packages to them while they are away. You may not have a specific scope of mind to help. Just call your local veterans organization. This message is from Choice City Electric in Fort Collins, your electrical retrofit specialist. Visit them online or call 970-493-4077. That's 970-493-4077.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
My friends, welcome back to Riell Truth. Dr. Stephen Kirby retired after spending 31 years in law enforcement, most of that time with the Los Angeles Police Department. He attended the University of Virginia, where he earned a PhD in foreign affairs with an emphasis in Soviet foreign policy. His latest book is titled The Lure of Fantasy Islam, Exposing the Myths and Myth Makers. And Dr. Kirby is with us today. Dr. Kirby, welcome to Riell Truth.
Hi, Howard. It's great to be on the program.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. So tell me right off the bat, is Islam a religion of peace or not?
No, there's no way Islam is a religion of peace. That's the short answer. And you can look at the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad if you want the long answer. But there's no way you can say Islam is a religion of peace. Although, sometimes I've heard Muslims talk about Islam being a religion of peace. But what they mean is, if everybody becomes Muslim, then it's a religion of peace.
Right. It's a religion of don't oppose us and we'll have peace, and if you do oppose us, we'll kill you. Is Islam a religion or a cult, in your opinion?
Well, I call it a religion because the dictionary definition of a religion is a belief in a supreme being. And so I go, okay, for me, the issue is not whether it's a religion or a political movement or a cult. It's what it teaches. That's what I'm concerned about. And that's where I like to keep the focus in my talks and in my writing. What does Islam teach? That's what we need to be concerned about.
Okay, now you talk about fantasy Islam. Please explain that phrase.
Well, I came up with that term some time back, and it's basically where a group of non-Muslims who believe in their hearts that Islam is a religion of peace attend a presentation done by a Muslim who makes up his own version of Islam to satisfy this desire that Islam becomes a religion of peace.
Right.
Basically, it's a Muslim, and a lot of non-Muslims just come up with their own version of Islam, and usually it goes against Islamic doctrine. It's unbelievable. It's a fantasy world. The problem with that is it's very appealing. A lot of non-Muslims who don't know anything about Islam will hear this very nice version of Islam, and they think that's what Islam is all about. And so they start thinking, okay, the jihadists have hijacked the religion, the so-called radical Muslims have hijacked the religion. When the reality is the complete opposite. These folks playing fantasy Islam have hijacked Islam. They've made up their own version of Islam, where when you look at the jihadists, take ISIS, for example, everything ISIS does can be supported by Islamic doctrine, whether it's Quran verses and or teachings of Muhammad. So that's why I say fantasy Islam for these folks who create their own version of Islam and really kind of lull non-Muslims into this false sense of security that it's a religion of peace.
Now, your website is islamseries.org, but you're a contributor to other sites like Front Page Magazine, Arutz Sheva, Jihad Watch, and Militant Islam Monitor. So if people want to learn the truth about what Islam is and what it believes in, they should go to your site and these other sites, correct?
Right, and I would recommend, on my site, I've got a tab that says brochures, and I would recommend folks start out there if they don't have a whole lot of time, because I've got 21 different brochures on that site. Each one is a PDF, a trifold format, so you can print them out yourself if you want. But each one looks at a specific aspect of Islam, and in about 10 or 15 minutes, you can get a basic understanding of 21 different aspects of Islam. And so that's a good place to start.
Okay. Are Christians in danger from Islam?
Christians in the Middle East are in danger right now. If things keep up, it won't be too long before the idea of Christians in the Holy Land is just a nostalgic historical feeling, except for Israel. I can see at some point it's quite possible that Israel will be the only place in which Christians will still be found in the Holy Land. In terms of, say, in the United States, I think the biggest danger Christians have right now is a tremendous misunderstanding of Islam. I mean, the fantasy Islam in these interfaith dialogues and tri-faith movements is rampant. I mean, in fact, you cannot have these tri-faith movements unless you buy off on some fantasy version of Islam. So I think in the short term, Christians in general are in danger because of the ignorance of Islam and how this fantasy Islam has been created. So you have this feeling that we can all get along in spite of what Islamic doctrine says against that very idea.
Okay. There's a feeling out there among some that, yeah, Muslims hate Jews, but they don't get the fact that Muslims hate Christians too. They hate everybody who's not Muslim. Am I lying, or is that true?
Well, I'll tell you what, here's where it's important to make a distinction between Islam and Muslims. Muslims, like Jews and Christians, come in all shapes and sizes. They come in all degrees of devotion to their religion and knowledge about their religion. Just because somebody's a Muslim doesn't mean they know anything about Islam. And just because they're a Muslim doesn't mean they follow Islamic doctrine. So that's why I focus on Islam, the religion of Islam taught by Muhammad, based on the Quran and Muhammad's teaching. So I don't say, a Muslim could be a friend with anybody. They can do anything they want in theory, but it's Islamic doctrine that prohibits that very thing. Yeah, it's an Islamic doctrine that in the Quran, chapter 5, verse 82, that says Jews are the worst enemies of Muslims. Now, that's what the Quran says. Those are the words of Allah. Whether a Muslim wants to follow that or not is another issue. But Islamic doctrine is what it is. And an errant Muslim who's not following the doctrine today can always return to that doctrine tomorrow and become a devout Muslim.
You know, what you're saying is right on. We're about to hit a commercial break, and I've said it myself. Even so-called moderate Muslims who have never hurt a fly in their lives might wake up one day and read a page in the Quran and say, you know what? I need to be a better Muslim, so I'm going to follow Muhammad's teachings and kill someone today. And that's the danger of having Muslims living in Western society, because you never know which of them is going to go off, which is going to become extremist, what day, for what motivation. And even among themselves, they're violent. All right, I'll tell you what. We'll take a break, and we'll come back. More Real Truth ahead, my friends. Stay put.
And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness to him and cried out, saying, This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. This is the America News Network.
Chaplain Collins LLC salutes our emergency first responders for their professionalism, commitment, and bravery. They're willing to put their lives on the line for us with little or no thanks. So let's all take the time to thank our first responders for all they do for us. Also thanking our veterans for the sacrifice they made for our freedom. This message is from Chaplain Collins LLC, the two locations in Denver and Fort Collins, serving the community for over 13 years. Visit them online at chaplaincollins.com. Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver. It's not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo's.
Folks, welcome back to Riell Truth. I am Howard Riell. My special guest today, Dr. Stephen M. Kirby. His website, I want you to go to it because it's a really, really good one, islamseries.org. Dr. Kirby, what does Islam teach about Jesus?
Well, that's an interesting question there.
Only kind I ask, Dr. Kirby.
I'm sorry, what?
It's the only kind of question I ask are the interesting ones.
The tri-faith movements and interfaith dialogue going on. Basically, this one teaches that Jesus was not crucified. You find that in the Quran, chapter 4, verses 157 and 158. It says he just appeared to have been crucified. And the way Ibn Abbas, Muhammad's cousin and a noted early Muslim scholar, explained it, Jesus was in a house with 12 of his followers, and they were surrounded by an angry crowd of Jews who wanted to crucify Jesus. So Jesus turned to his followers and said, "Who would like to take my place and then join me in paradise?" So the youngest follower raised his hand, and Jesus said, "No, not you." He asked again. The youngest follower raised his hand, asked again the same thing. So finally Jesus goes, "Okay, you'll take my place." So the ceiling opened up, and Allah took Jesus bodily up into paradise. Then Allah made the youngest follower to look like Jesus. So then when the Jews broke into the house, they crucified that youngest follower, thinking they had crucified Jesus. Now, what's interesting about that is that those two verses in the Quran undermine the basis of Christianity. If there's no crucifixion, if there's no resurrection. On top of which, the idea that there's explosion after the youngest kid was crucified. Those 11 followers then went out and preached Christianity, knowing it was based on a fraud. So basically, Islam teaches that Christianity is a false religion based on a fraud.
Doesn't the Quran also teach that one day Jesus will return, but as a Muslim, and he will wage war, lead Muslims in war against Christians?
Well, actually, the Quran says Jesus was a Muslim. In fact, Jesus, when he was just a little baby in the cradle, said, "I am a Muslim, I'm a slave of Allah." So Islam teaches that Jesus was only a prophet, but he was a Muslim prophet. Now, with Jesus returning to earth, we find that in the teachings of Muhammad, where Muhammad said, Jesus will return to earth, and when he comes to earth, he will destroy Christianity and call everybody to Islam. And Jesus will be on earth for 40 years. And during that 40-year time period, Allah will destroy all other religions except Islam. So when you have Muslims tell Christians, "Oh, we revere Jesus, and we both believe he'll return to earth," well, Muslims revere Jesus, but they say he was just a prophet. And then the kicker is, when Jesus returns to earth, according to Islam, Jesus is going to return to earth and destroy Christianity. In fact, Muhammad said when Jesus returns to earth, he'll rule by the Quran, not by the Bible.
All right, so where is the possibility for interfaith dialogue between Muslims and Christians and Jews? On what basis do we have interfaith dialogue?
Well, that's a very good question. From what I see, it's based on a fantasy version of Islam that the Jewish and Christian leaders accept. And from what I've seen of this dialogue, it seems like it's mostly Jewish and Christian leaders sitting there while the Muslim leader expounds on his version of Islam. And I don't really see a dialogue. In fact, really, when you get right down to it, the Islamic doctrine prohibits any kind of dialogue like that. Allah curses Jews and Christians. Allah curses Christians because Christians believe Jesus is the Son of God. And in fact, by Christians believing that Jesus is the Son of God, they commit the one unforgivable sin in Islam, and it's called shirk, S-H-I-R-K. This is the one sin that Allah will not forgive. And if you commit shirk, you're automatically going to hell. So what Islam teaches is that Christians, by definition, commit shirk, and therefore all Christians are going to hell, period. And in fact, Muhammad even expanded on that. He said, any Jew or Christian who has heard of me but does not believe in me and Allah will go to hell. So, the only way you can have this interfaith dialogue stuff and the tri-faith movement is for the Jews and Christian leaders to intentionally ignore Islam and buy off on some fantasy version of Islam that the Muslim leader is giving to them.
All right, so once we accept the fact, which is pretty obvious, and you make the case yourself, once we accept the fact that Islam is not going to be tolerant, not going to accept peace, brotherhood, and harmony with Jews and Christians, what should we do? What should Jews and Christians do today, knowing that? What action should we take?
The first thing is more people have to become knowledgeable enough about Islam where they can start talking to Muslims and holding Muslims accountable for Islamic doctrine. And I say that based on my own experience because 10 years ago, I was kind of concerned about Islam, but I really didn't know enough about Islam to even talk about why I was concerned. And then I started researching and writing, and I've got 5 books, 40-some published articles, 21 brochures, and so now I'm comfortable talking about Islam. And I guess my purpose is to try to get as many people educated about Islam as possible. Not that they have to be experts in the field, but just so they know enough to start asking questions. And especially, say if your pastor wants to engage in some interfaith dialogue, sit down and talk to the pastor. Hey, this is what Islam teaches about Christians.
Is there? Let me interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Kirby. You said something interesting. You said we need to sit down and talk to Muslims. Will talking to Muslims accomplish anything? Are they going to throw up their hands and say, you know what, you're right, I'm going to change the way I practice my religion? Or is talking to Muslims a waste of time?
Well, what I mean by talking to Muslims, I'm not trying to change their mind or anything like that. I guess the idea is hold them accountable for their doctrine. When you've got some Muslims sitting down going, something, Islam is one of the 3 Abrahamic faiths. It's just like Judaism and Christianity. It's a religion of peace. Know enough so you can confront that Muslim and say, that's total nonsense. What about chapter 9 and verse 5 of the Quran, which Muslim scholars call the verse of the sword? That's the one that says after the sacred months have passed, slay the mushrikun, slay the non-Muslims wherever you find them. Chapter 9, verse 29 is a specific command from Allah to the Muslims, fight the Jews and Christians. And instead of fighting to the death, Jews and Christians were given a third option. Either convert to Islam, die fighting. But Jews and Christians had a third option, and that was to pay what's called the jizya. And the jizya is basically protection. But the thing is, it's not just pay it, but that verse says, pay it with willing submission and feeling subdued. So, you talk to these imams about this one. Look, how can we have a dialogue when this is what your religion teaches? Hold Muslims accountable for Islamic doctrine.
All right, but that's what I wanted to ask you about. Hold them accountable. I have no idea what that means. In real terms, on the ground, where the rubber meets the road, how does the West protect itself from Islam? Donald Trump made a lot of people crazy when he first started talking about a Muslim ban. Do you think a Muslim ban is a good idea?
Something, that's a real good question. Here's the way I look at it. Okay, the idea of bringing these Muslim refugees, well and fine in theory, but the thing is, what are we bringing in? And that's why I say it's important to understand Islamic doctrine, because if somebody says they're a Muslim, then that implies that they abide by Islamic doctrine. And there's a lot of aspects of Islamic doctrine that make me very uncomfortable, that scare me. And it worries me if folks who believe in that President Trump's talked about extreme vetting, this kind of stuff. But there's two problems with that approach. Well, three problems, actually. These folks are coming from devastating countries. There's no central record-keeping system, so it's hard to say who they really are. And I remember reading, I think it was last year, where ISIS, when they conquered a town, came across a Syrian passport printer with a bunch of blank Syrian passports. So who knows how many of these passports are out there now with false information on them. That's the first thing. The second part really consists of Islamic doctrine, because Islamic doctrine allows Muslims to lie to non-Muslims. It allows them, chapter 3, verse 28, allows Muslims to pretend to be friends with non-Muslims.
Right, that's called taqiyya, isn't it?
Verse 100. Well, yeah, but right. The thing is, and I've heard people talk about taqiyya, I've read articles about taqiyya, and then you start going all into subgroups, Tickman and other things. But I focus on the Quran, because you got two verses of the Quran, chapter 3, verse 28, which tells Muslims, starts out telling them, don't be friends with non-Muslims unless you fear for your safety. Then pretend to be friends with them. Chapter 16, verse 106, flat out says, you can renounce your religion as long as you stay true to Islam in your heart. Now, those two verses right there create a problem in terms of vetting Muslims, because Islamic doctrine allows Muslims to lie to non-Muslims. So, how do you vet them? You can talk about extreme vetting all you want, but they're coming from devastated countries with no central record keeping, and their doctrine allows them to lie. So, here again, you go back to get more people aware of what Islamic doctrine says. Then we can start raising these questions of, hey, how can we bring these Muslim refugees in if we don't know who they are and their religion allows them to lie? And right there, you could start the argument of maybe we should not bring the Muslim refugees in.
Well, we've only got 2 minutes.
Muslims in the United States.
We've only got 2 minutes left. I've made the case that you cannot have Muslim terror in a country where there are no Muslims. Is my logic wrong there? Am I off?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's awfully hard to have a Muslim kill you if the Muslim's not in the same country as you. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, you kind of broke up on that. What was that last part?
I said it's the cure for Islamic terror. It would seem to me would be to ban Islam. Is there a fault in my logic?
Well, no, you're absolutely right. As long as you can make sure no jihadists snuck into your country otherwise.
Well, that's always a concern, right?
That's a start in terms of banning Islamic terror.
Yeah, it would seem to me a commonplace starting point. And all the people who are jumping up and down, oh, it's racist, it's Islamophobic. Well, given how many Muslims there are in the world and how many of them not only are terrorists or supporters of terror, but who agree with the Quran and think that extremist things like beheading and honor killing are okay, and the number I've seen is over 800 million Muslims in the world, I think it's time for a little Islamophobia. I think it's the only cure for terrorism. We got 1 minute left. What's your closing thought?
Well, I think a good place to start with all of this is understand Islam. So when you start talking about it, when you start holding Muslims accountable for Islamic doctrine, and ask those tough questions. Hey, your doctrine allows deception. Your doctrine commands you to kill non-Muslims. What are we going to do about this? And if it comes down to it, start off with no more Muslim refugees coming into the country because you simply can't vet them. And then try to figure out, what do we do with Muslims here in the United States? They have their religion. This is what their religion says. There's nothing we can do about what their religion says except to them. And throw the monkey on their back.
All right.
What are you guys going to do about this religion that you say you follow?
Dr. Stephen Kirby, website islamseries.org. Thanks very much for being with us today, Dr. Kirby. I appreciate it.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right, folks, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Animal House Taxidermy in Brighton would like to take this time to say thank you to all the brave men and women in the armed forces who have served our country. Business owners, consider hiring veterans, our most dependable resource. And to those heroes back home for missions abroad, Know that your dedication, selflessness, and courage are appreciated. May God bless America. This message is from Animal House Taxidermy and Bright, proud to salute the fighting forces of our country.
This is Michael. The American Queen never speaks your phone. Please call 1-800-245. That's 1-800-245 to make your phone.
Howard.
Yes, I'm here. Yep.
Yes, just give you a heads up. He said anytime you want him back, give him a holler.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Cody.
You're welcome.
Now this is the testimony of John, the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 through 21.
The associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter not be ever mind. No one anywhere is more noble, righteous, ethical, and courageous than our United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families put the bill for our freedom every day. In the military care package, to let them know that they are in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts. This message is from the associate to 24-hour Walmart Supercenter on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they care.
Elizabeth Locker Plan and Elizabeth reminds our listeners that the drug problem is well documented. We know our kids will be approached at early age. We want to applaud the youngsters in our community who have had instructed no to drugs. They provide examples for their peers and families to be the best they can be. That's from Elizabeth Locker Plan, located at 366 Granite Street in Elizabeth, serving our area since 1943 and specializing in naturalized beef and pork. Custom process. Call 303-688-2240. That's 303-688-2240. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Once again, my thanks to Dr. Stephen Kirby. My friends, do look at his website. It's an excellent one, islamseries.org. Get to know about Islam, because the more you know about it, the less you'll like it. Item. From The Hollywood Reporter, Andy Dick has been dropped from the independent feature film called Raising Buchanan following accusations of sexual harassment and misconduct on set. The Hollywood Reporter was not able to reach any of the alleged victims. However, two sources detailed Dick's inappropriate behavior, which included groping people's genitals, unwanted kissing and licking, and sexual propositions of at least 4 members of the production. It's unclear if those involved are actors or crew. Late Monday, THR spoke to Dick, who confirmed he was let go from a small role in the film. Though he vehemently denied groping claims, he said it's possible he licked people, and he confirmed he did make advances on others, unquote. My friends, here's the thing. If you're unsure about whether or not you licked somebody, I see you need to get therapy. Now, I know the people from the gay organizations, the LGBTQ, MOUSE organizations, say, wait a minute. We don't want people to think that gay men are predators. Ask Mr. Dick. Item from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. economy is outpacing expectations for the first time since April. What that means for the stock rally is a matter of debate. Citigroup U.S. Economic Surprise Index, a widely used tool used to gauge how economic data matches up to expectations, has risen to its highest level since April in recent weeks. As the Wall Street Journal's morning Money Beat newsletter noted on Tuesday, that's today, a number of better-than-expected readings on the economy, from third-quarter gross domestic product to manufacturing activity, helped pull the index out of the negative territory in October for the first time since spring. unquote. My friends, all together now. Thank you, President Trump. Item from Reuters. Dateline Beijing. China's largely rubber-stamped parliament is considering jail terms of up to 3 years for people who disrespect the national anthem or flag in public, while an existing anthem law will be applied in Hong Kong, state media said on Tuesday, unquote. So, my friends, all those fat cat heads made of rock jocks in the NFL who are trying to be cool and hip and relevant by taking a knee and spitting on the American flag, if they were doing so in China, they'd be behind bars. Am I advocating that they be arrested? No, I'm not. I'm advocating that they be grown-ups. Item from CNBC. Consumers were even more optimistic in October than economists polled by Reuters expected. Consumer confidence rose to 125.9 in October, according to the Conference Board. The index increased to its highest level in almost 17 years, said Lynn Franco, Director of Economic Indicators at the Conference Board. That was in December 2000 when the index hit 128.6. Once again, thank you, President Trump. The ramifications, the elitists are screaming, and the leftists in the media are screaming, and the weasels like Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer and Barack Obama are squealing. But the American people realize that Donald Trump is here fighting for us. And that's why consumer optimism across the country is up. Item from IOL.co.za. Dateline Durban, South Africa. South African health authorities are on alert for possible imported cases of the plague. This, as almost 1,300 suspected cases have been reported in Madagascar. It was confirmed that there were no cases in South Africa at a press briefing at the Department of Health and National Institute of Communicable Diseases, but with Madagascar, where 93 people have died from the plague, being just one direct flight away, authorities are on their guard. Stop! This is an excellent point. Madagascar is one direct flight away. So tell me something. How many direct flights away is Madagascar from America? Or any of the countries in Africa where disease is absolutely rampant and uncontrolled? How hard is it for people there to come here? Not hard at all. All you got to do is buy a ticket. And so am I being xenophobic when I say we need to really put the hammer down on who's coming into our country? Or is it common sense? Item from WJZ in Baltimore. It's the heart of Baltimore's tourism industry. But the Inner Harbor turned into a nightmare for a visiting family of 10 earlier this month. Out of nowhere, they were swarmed and beaten by a large number of teenagers. While the family that was attacked does not want to be identified, they do want their story to be heard. They told the story to WJZ off camera, quote, "They swarmed us. They hit my husband in the head, they knocked him out, and then it was just complete bedlam." It happened on the day of the Baltimore Marathon, October 21. The event brought a big crowd to the harbor that night. The 10 family members, from grandparents to grandchildren, who were walking by the H&M store when they were overwhelmed. Quote, "They punched my nephew in the face and knocked him to the floor," this individual said. "My sister went to protect her son. They were kicking her. I was kneeling with my husband screaming, 'Somebody help us. Why is nobody helping us?'" Unquote. Here's why. Because it's politically incorrect to point the finger at certain groups and say, well, they're causing most of the trouble. You can't do that. And so justice is blind, deaf, and dumb. Also, God forbid, Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson should point an accusing finger at the police department. Politicians will have a hemorrhage. And so, no, my friends, this kind of violence will not be coming to an end. Item from Agence France Presse, Dateline Tokyo. The director of a controversial new Japanese movie depicting the plight of 3 conflicted porn actresses is hoping this film will help eliminate what he calls prejudice against the industry. Takehisa Zeise's film called The Lowlife, an adaptation of a novel by erotic actress Mana Sakura, which brings a hearty dollop of kitchen sink realism to the porn business as it documents the trio's day-to-day struggles, premiered at the Tokyo International Film Festival this week. Quote, the movie is about people searching for the place in the world and their identity, ZZ told AFP. I don't think there was an urgent sense of wanting to destroy taboos when we set out to make the film. Hopefully it can go some way to helping break down the prejudices that still exist towards porn, unquote. My friends, what prejudices are those? The porn industry online is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. Porn is literally at the human race's fingertips whenever men or women want it. Rather than being afraid of a taboo against porn, I think we need more taboos against porn. Item from Fox News. A math education professor at the University of Illinois says the ability to solve geometry and algebra problems and teaching such subjects perpetuates so-called white privilege. Riell Truth laid out her views on the subject in an article for a newly published anthology for math educators entitled Building Support for Scholarly Practices in Mathematics Methods. School mathematics curricula emphasizing terms like Pythagorean theorem and pi perpetuate a perception that mathematics was largely developed by Greeks and other Europeans, she says, according to Campus Reform. She also says addressing equity in mathematics education will come when teachers can understand and negotiate the politics outside the classroom, unquote. My friends, this is PC nonsense, and this Professor Gutierrez is a pinhead. We'll be back.
And of his holiness we have called to see, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 16. Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seen. If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival.
American Window Tinting Incorporated in Franktown reminds parents, keep an eye on your child while shopping. Children tend to stray or become lost. This poses an opportunity for a would-be abductor. Please make every effort to keep track of your little one at all times. If you have information regarding a lost child, call local authorities at once. This message is from American Window Tinting Incorporated in Franktown. For residential or commercial window tinting, call 303-263-4228.
My friends, Russia, 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 Russia. That's all you hear today. You want to know what's really going on with the Russian scandal? It has nothing to do with Donald Trump or his administration. It has everything to do with the Democrats. Here's Tucker Carlson from last night on Fox News.
Exclusive new reporting on a story that has turned Washington upside down. Former Donald Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort and his business associate Gates.
Hold it. A former staffer for Jeb Bush, working for the Podesta Group, when Podesta has been associated with Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the Democrats for decades. Jeb Bush, the Democrats. Slimeball, slimeballs. Anybody beginning to detect a pattern here? Can you imagine if Jeb, with an exclamation point, had run against Hillary? It would have been a choice between terrible and terrible. Because Bush is a hack. He's a fake. He's a phony. You see who he's in bed with. This scandal, I'm afraid, is going to end up like most scandals in Washington. We'll quickly come to see who's guilty and who's not. The lawyers will drag it out to the point where the American public loses interest in it, and nobody will get so much as a slap on the wrist. Because there is a two-tier justice system in this country. There's one justice system for the rich and powerful, and the rest for us. My friends, pay attention to what's coming in the weeks to come. More revelations, more news about this, more news about just how slimy and degenerate and dishonest the Democrats are. Stop voting Democrat. If you haven't gotten that message yet, then I'll keep saying it. The Democrats want exactly the opposite of what the American people want. The Democrats don't care about the American people, don't even care about Democrats. All right, I hear music way in the background. I think we're about to hit a break. When we come back, we will wrap things up here on this Tuesday. We'll get some more news under our belts and maybe a surprise or two. We'll be back.
Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit, whether they are God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming, and is now in the world. 1 John 4:1.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin and tender in payment of debt, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
Chaplain Collins LLC salutes our emergency first responders for their professionalism, commitment, and bravery. They're willing to put their lives on the line for us with little or no thanks. So let's all take the time to thank our first responders for all they do for us. Also thanking our veterans for the sacrifice they made for our freedom. This message is from Chaplain Collins LLC, with 10 locations in Denver and Fort Collins, serving the community for over 13 years. Visit them online at chaplaincollins.com.
Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver. It's not only the best Italian in the country, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166.
We are at 4 minutes and counting. Let's hit it. Item from Grabian.com. Without a doubt, this is already an NFL season Roger Goodell can't wait to dropkick into distant memory. As players' political activism increasingly encroaches onto the playing field, ratings are getting blitzed. Over the first 6 weeks, NFL ratings are down 7.5% as compared to last season, per Nielsen. They're down 18.7% from the 2015 season. Commenting last year on the decline, Goodell punted, blaming the presidential election for America's fading interest. Faced with such awful stats, it's incontrovertible that if Goodell were himself a player, he'd have already been cut. But Goodell is clearly intent on retaining possession of his commissionership. His game plan appears to be encouraging players to remain committed to the issues in their communities, quote-unquote, while also telling fans he agrees these athletes should stand for the national anthem. Over the last 2 days, Goodell has huddled with NFL team owners and the Players Association. Speaking to the press about how he intends to salvage the season, Goodell came up incomplete. As he fumbled for words, a very odd verbal tick emerged. Over the course of about 20 minutes before the press, Goodell used the same 2 words no fewer than 45 times, unquote. My friends, Goodell is caught between a rock and a hard place. The rock is his head. He's a fool and a craven coward who has no feeling whatsoever for America or the American people. He's clearly interested only in dollars and cents. He'll be gone soon. Item from KansasCity.com. The College of the Ozarks in Point Lookout, Missouri, is now requiring all freshmen to enroll in its Patriotic Education and Fitness program, which aims to educate students on modern military customs, American politics, flag protocol, and procedures, unquote. My friends, this story gets weird looks from people, but I see no reason that we should not be instilling in young people a love of this country. There's plenty about this country and its history to love. Perfect? No. No country's perfect. But out of all the countries that have ever existed in this world, this one is the best. And telling that to kids is a good thing, not a bad thing. Item from the Daily Caller. A key operative in Democratic scheme to send agitators to cause unrest at Donald Trump's rallies has visited the White House 342 times since 2009, White House records show. Robert Creamer, who acted as a middleman between the Clinton campaign, the Democratic National Committee, and quote-unquote protesters who tried and succeeded to provoke violence at Trump rallies, met with President Obama during 47 of those 342 visits, according to White House records. Creamer's last visit was in June 2016, unquote. So the criminals and scumbags who've been perpetrating violence, political violence, attempting to shut down Americans' constitutional rights to speech and assembly, were bosom buddies with Barack Obama and the Democrats. And so I'll say again, my friends, tell me, how does anyone with at least half a brain in good conscience justify voting for Democrats? You can't. You won't. You'll never be able to. You know, I used to be married to someone who was a Hillary supporter, God help me. And she didn't want me telling people in public she was a Hillary supporter because everybody reacted to her as if she were a knucklehead. Well, in retrospect, she kind of was. Democrats know it, and they face a choice, the fork in the road. They can either get smarter and stop voting Democrat, or they can continue to vote Democrat and continue to hide in the shadows and make whatever effort they can to see to it that people don't find out they vote Democrat, because in this day and age, there simply is no excuse for doing so. Time's up. All done. Be back tomorrow with more Real Truth, my friends. I trust you'll be here as well. Hasta lumbago.